Could it be? Could it be? It is out of here!
And it's a no-hitter! Unbelievable! Ruiz and Halladay embrace!
World champions!
It is bedlam at the bank as Bryce Harper has put the Phillies on top!
We're talking about the Giants here. Son!
Hello and welcome to the April 19th, 2026 iteration of the Specific Jawns podcast, your elite source of all things Philadelphia Phillies. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Specific Jawns podcast, a subsidiary of Barker Ball Media. You can catch us on various platforms, especially YouTube. Good to see you guys again, Mike and Pat. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for holding down the fort the last couple weeks. I was away. Couple great things happened. I'm a first-time uncle. My nephew was born. Then I got to spend some time down in Mexico with my lady friend. Just good times. I don't mean to brag about those things too much, given the fact that they were really a reprieve from the universe, from experiencing the soul-sucking, god-awful experience of watching Phillies baseball in 2026, especially this spring. We're going to get right into it. We try our best to keep optimistic and hopeful and get our fan base hype along with us, but we all know we are kidding ourselves if that's where we are psychologically as fans of this baseball team. It is bad. It is real bad. They're 8-12. They are somehow fourth in the division, 5.5 games back, probably going on 6.5. They are facing the Braves as we speak. We are recording on Sunday night. They're playing in prime time, which is embarrassing to have our team do that in the state that they are in at the moment. We've got just pretty much, we started the season, I think, with a lot of 50-50 balls in the air, to borrow the term from football. A lot of things we knew could land either way, namely the hitting, the fielding, a couple things about, injuries, the rotation, certain question marks, but not too many. It's safe to say that all of those have been dropped, those 50-50 balls, and in addition to a bunch of other balls that we thought were going to be sure shots that we wouldn't have to worry about this season. So what we're actually going to do to start our podcast tonight, because it's such a monumental task, because there are so many things to talk about of concern, that we broke it down among the three of us in the categories of hitting, pitching, and fielding. We each had to take one of those just to be able to handle the workload of going over what a disaster we're looking at so far this season. And we're going to go one by one and just break it down and look the problems in the face, which is something we need to do, something I feel, at least personally, that this team needs to do that they're probably not doing. This team looks not just gutless and heartless like they did at certain points last season and a couple times in the playoffs prior to that. They look soulless. They look clueless. They don't look like they even care about playing baseball right now, that they even know how to play baseball as a team. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look it right in the face, see what the situation is, and try to turn it around as the podcast goes on to what solutions there could be out there, what we could be optimistic about, etc. So let's get started. Already see Barker shaking his head at that prospect. Good start. Barker, we're going to kick it right over to you to start. You were given the grave task of analyzing the Phillies' hitting stats so far. What sticks out to you? We obviously all see how bad it is, but really, let's get into some of the numbers. What do you got, Pat?
Well, before I get into that, congratulations on becoming an uncle.
Thank you.
And I love that your first move is to flee the country. Nicely done. Really set the kid up for disappointment right off the bat.
I want him to know I'm very excited to throw the ball around with him, but if he underperforms, I will go international if I have to.
Well, if he underperforms, he could be a Philly someday, based on the numbers I was seeing today. I have also been fortunately too busy to really watch this train wreck. I've been a lot busier with work stuff. I'm currently in Las Vegas, just wrapped up a weekend of filming on paddle bots. I spent all day watching robots kill each other, and it was a lot more fun than any Phillies game I've seen this season. For the next 3 weekends, I will be here in this Wild West themed hotel doing these in the lobby because I'm a psycho. Um, I appreciate that you gave me hitting as the backdrop. Between robot fights today, I was determined to dig in deep and find one stat that really encapsulated everything. And it turns out, boy, there's a really good one. And I know I'm cheating a little bit because this takes into account to a degree fielding. But I went to Baseball Reference, I went to Team Stats, and they have something called WAR by position. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go position by position very quickly here. And I'm going to run through the Phillies team WAR at this position. And it appears to be calculated slightly differently from individual. I'm not going to get into all of it, but this is from Baseball Reference at this exact moment, their number and their ranking. So I'm pulling this up right now. And I apologize in advance because my computer is very slow in the lobby of a Wild West themed hotel. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start with catcher. The Philadelphia Phillies at the position of catcher have produced negative 0.3 WAR, which ranks tied for 21st in the majors. At first base, you would think that would be a better position with Bryce Harper. Collectively, they are at negative 0.2 WAR, which is ranked 17th. At second base, they are at negative 0.5, which ranks 27th. Third base, they are negative 0.7, which is tied for last. At shortstop, they are negative 0.2, which is 22nd. Left field, they are negative 0.3, which is tied for 23rd. In center field, negative 0.5, which is tied for 25th. In right field, they are negative 0.2, which is tied for 18th. Shout out to Adolis Garcia, one of their better performing positions. DH, obviously with Schwarber, that is the only positive on the entire team. They are at 0.1, which is tied for 7th in Major League Baseball. They are at a negative in literally every single position offensively. If that doesn't summarize it, I don't know what does. Nobody is delivering. Of course, it's fun to spend the whole offseason being like, is Bryce Harper elite? He is the least of our problems, whether he is elite or very good or just good. He is miles ahead of the rest of this dog shit. These guys, they're just bad. There's no debate. 50 Shades of bad. They're just bad right now. Sorry. Wish I could be more positive.
Well, at least pitchers can't hit, so we didn't have a 9th or a 10th opportunity to look that bad.
They might be better than some of our regulars, though.
I think so. What have we seen that we could possibly grow off of offensively? Is there anything about what? And I don't want to get too much into it because I'm going to need to harp on this later in the segment. Is there something that we could do with the batting order? Is there something that you guys foresee as a potential solution to spark this lineup? They're doing everything wrong. They're not taking pitches. They're chasing. They're not making hard contact. They're not hitting with runners in scoring position if they even get them there. They're not playing any type of small ball. I just see nothing offensively. Do you guys see anything?
You see glimmers of hope with Harper and Schwarber. And then, I mean, you really just need to get Stott, Bohm out of the gutter. I mean, get them back to at least close to league average. Even if it's, 90 OPS plus or 80 OPS plus, that's a grave improvement compared to where they're at right now. So, I mean, part of it's just relying on the guys that have done at least something a little bit before to do something a little bit better. But other parts are just, I mean, you're lifeless with some of these guys in the lineup right now.
Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, man. They brought up Felix Reyes. He hit a home run in his first at bat. It was cool to watch, but ultimately, the talent uh, beyond the starters, because I do think that the starters still have the talent to be league average or slightly better than. They certainly can be better than they are right now. They just have to start hitting. But I don't think there's any magical button they could push, any switch in the order that all of a sudden these guys start hitting. I think that the ones who are bad, are all kind of slumping at the same time, and that's tough. When they're all hitting like this, it's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, to take an overused metaphor. I don't know what else you could do. They don't have a good enough farm system to call anybody else up. Aiden Miller is not healthy enough to come up and contribute right now, so you just kind of hold on for dear life and hope that they come out of it. At least a couple of them.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Just the one thing that I've always wanted in the Topper and Kevin Long era is just a little bit of traditional baseball thinking in the makeup of the lineup. And I know many would disagree with me just with any team. But, I don't particularly like how just unintuitive the lineup is constructed and that we just take it for granted. I don't like that, we don't have Schwarber in the cleanup spot. I don't like that we have Harper batting right in front of him. I don't like that we don't acknowledge the fact that Kyle Schwarber is the only power hitter on this team. I don't like that we don't have guys who are there to execute as a leadoff hitter, hitting like a leadoff hitter, as a table setter in the 2-hole, hitting for contact to work counts, just to get guys on base or move that leadoff hitter up, so that your big dogs behind you can clean them up. I just don't see anyone locking into a spot in the order that is in any way traditional that I do think is worth exploring, since considering nothing else has worked for this team in this era in that regard. I don't think the batting order has ever been optimized. But I just get this sense that if you put guys up there with a plate approach according to where they hit in the batting order, you can get results. It might take a little while, but you got to lock your guys into a mentality that makes them understand, and I say this over and over again, that you're not hitting on an island. You are on a team. You are in an order. You have a game plan that you're supposed to execute on, and you're going to fail at least 2/3 of the time in baseball. But you do that consistently, and you approach the plate in that way consistently, and you're a talented ball club, which they are on paper at least. You're going to have to get results that are better than what we've seen so far. And, I see him, Topper, doing things like moving Marsh into the cleanup spot just because he's been hot, but hot's kind of relative because they don't let him face left-handers. That to me feels like rearranging chairs on the Titanic. If it were a plan that was going to be locked into more long-term with sort of a more conventional baseball set of ideas, then I could buy into, all right, they're slumping right now, but they're going to figure it out. But I don't see anything like that. I don't see any sort of long-term plan from the manager or the hitting coach. I'm just kind of left at a loss for, well, they're ball players. They're going to get out of slumps. We've seen them hit before. Fine. But that's not going to get any more seats in the stands, and it's going to leave us with even less patience for this type of slump for however long it goes.
Yeah, just the problem with even considering moving down somebody like Kyle Schwarber into the cleanup spot is that you have nobody that's worthy of hitting ahead of him. I mean, you have a Turner that's struggling right now at leadoff, so you're not getting enough of those RBI opportunities, runners on base ahead of Schwarber. Would I like to see Schwarber and Harper switch? Yes, but that's not going to solve the problems that we have. I mean, we just don't have a deep enough lineup. We don't have the guys that we could put 1, 2, or 3 and move down a Schwarber if you want to go with that traditional cleanup hitter. I'm more in line of thinking that it's got to be some order of a Turner, Harper, Schwarber in the 1, 2, and 3 right now, just because those are our 3 best hitters and we need to maximize their at-bats. could we play around with that order today and tomorrow and figure out a better way to put those lineups out there? Yes, but again, right now there's just nobody else hitting well enough to put them ahead of Schwarber.
The bottom line for me, and I will just say this, and then when it comes time for you to ask me what I would do if I was manager, I'll make something up and I'll pretend that there's a fix because it's a podcast and that's what we have to do. But if we're being real, you can move these guys wherever you want. If they're not hitting, it's obviously not going to matter. You talk about like a more conventional lineup. The Dodgers have a 55 home run guy leading off. The Yankees have a 60 home run guy in the 2-hole. This is, unfortunately, a conventional lineup now. The unconventional thing would be to take a light hitting second baseman and put him in the 2-hole so he can move runners over. That's what we grew up on, but like that would make you the outlier at this point. So, I'm all for trying whatever. I really, really am at this point because it's sickening to watch, but I don't have my hopes high that any of it is going to help.
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel discouraged by the fact that I'd be an outlier. To be honest, you kind of, if I try to put myself in other teams' fans' shoes, I hear a lot of the same complaints. I mean, we're not hitting the ball, we're not hitting for contact, we're not playing small ball. I mean, that most teams in the league, even good ones, have those sort of issues. I just don't. I'm just very much not attuned to the way things are in baseball in that regard these days. One thing that I have heard out there, I don't know if it's sports radio or just talking to people, some people really want to see Crawford moved up in the order because, he's had a solid start. It's his rookie year. Maybe have him be the leadoff and Turner be the setup, the table setter in the 2-hole or vice versa. I would be open to that, but even that makes me nervous as a more conventional thinker. Like, he's a rookie. How many times have you seen a rookie come out, hitting pretty well, and then the league figures him out? There's going to be something that he's not aware of in his swing or his game or his plate approach or his eye that other teams are going to figure out, and he's going to come down to earth at some point and go into a slump like a lot of rookies do. I mean, I think we have a tendency to latch on to rookies, especially in this town, because it's so rare that we get ones to be excited about. But the most prominent example I can think in recent years is, like Jackson Holiday is probably a good comparison. I mean, he came up, he got into a slump pretty quickly, and they sent him right back down. And there was this extra set of sort of expectations about him because, like Crawford, his father was a very good ball player. And I think people thought, all right, he's going to know how to handle himself as a big leaguer sooner than others. But that happens with rookies. It's unfortunate that Crawford is probably my one bright spot that I see in the lineup, but also feel like, okay, that there's going to be a mean regression there, just by virtue of the fact that he's a rookie.
Yeah, and I'm unfortunately going to bring it up, but he had a rough week this week. I mean, he went 0 in the Chicago series and didn't get a hit on Friday night in the Atlanta series, didn't play Saturday, so like he might already be hitting that rookie wall at the plate.
Yeah.
I understand why everybody is excited about Justin Crawford, A, because he's a rookie, and B, because there's nothing else to be excited about. I get it, and I get the calls to have him bat leadoff, and I understand all of it. I'm going to give you 5 words, and I'm not saying this is who I'm comparing him to, but the excitement around the rookie because of a lack of other options reminds me of 2013 All-Star Dominic Brown.
That he who should not be named. Okay. I think that's probably all we can do with the hitting side of things. It is that bleak, and that's why I wanted to start with the hitting because I don't want to just make things worse and worse as we go here. Which is why I'm going to make our second category Mike's, which is our defense. Statistically, I know there's not going to be much good to look at there. Take it away, Mike. What have you found?
Yeah, so when I look at defensive metrics. There's so many to look at, and the two big ones that I look up are defensive runs saved and D-WAR. Both are not pretty if you look at the team as a whole. On the D-WAR side, we only have one person above 0.0, and that's Rafael Marchand at 0.1. We're looking at negatives on Harper, Crawford, Kemp, Turner, Garcia, Stott, Sosa. I mean, it's bleak. Kemp was so bad in left field that they couldn't tolerate having the bat be even worse, you would argue. So they brought in somebody in Reyes who isn't known for playing the outfield. He barely has played it before, just because they needed a spark at the plate. He provided that last night, but didn't really amount to anything else after that. So, I mean, you look at the D-WAR side, and surprisingly, somebody like Bohm is not negative, but I'll take that as a bright sign. I am concerned about Crawford in center field. He is last on the team in defensive runs saved at -4. He's actually, Harper is too, at -4. And the concerns that we had coming into the season about him really being a corner outfielder, not really knowing center field, not playing it very well, really kind of giving him his shot at the major league level. He has had some issues there, mostly on balls going back. I've seen him make some nice plays coming in. He's actually much better at balls coming in from center field than Marsh is. Marsh, that's where he really, really struggles. But Marsh has been at least okay in left. But going back on some of those deeper part of the parks, Crawford, that's where he struggles. So I'd say that's a big red flag. If he is able to continue, the hot start that he had at the plate, and this last week is just a blip in the radar, then you can overcome that. But if both are starting to struggle, both the offense and the defense, then you're in trouble.
And I mean, we talked at length before the season that it was concerning that a true center fielder was never brought in or even considered, as far as we know, in the free agent market or otherwise. No, Crawford has never charted as a true center fielder, if I'm not mistaken, in his entire minor league career.
And his bat is not one that profiles as a corner outfielder either. So he really needs to improve in center field, or else his value really plummets.
Surely.
Unless his bat just takes off beyond belief. I mean, that's where you saw last year at the end of the year when we had Bader, like, you were confident at any ball hit to center field in the gaps he was getting. He hasn't gotten off to a great start in San Francisco, but you kind of missed that defensive presence that he brought in center field.
Yeah, and I'll give him a little bit more of a leash with some of the specific parts of his game that you had mentioned in center field. Balls that are behind you on the road. There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve with a new ballpark you've never played in, knowing the angles. You hope that is naturally going to improve with any rookie in center field. But the plays in front of him, I think he's shown that he's got some good instincts overall, and that is definitely where I see Brandon Marsh play. It is infuriating, no matter what part of the outfield he's in. The way he approaches balls in front of him or to his side, it doesn't do it for me at all. But
so I want to give you a quick guess at Otto Kemp's pace for defensive run saves if he were to play the full season in left field, at how awful it would be.
I don't know.
I'll give you a range of.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
I'll give you. It's negative. It's just a matter of how negative, and I'll give you a range of anywhere between, let's just say, 15 to 100. -15 to -100.
I didn't think it could get more than 10. Wow.
Part of it's small sample size. It's not like he was here for
75.
more than a couple weeks, but you are very close, Pat. He is on pace for -73 defensive runs saved. I guess that's the opposite of runs saved is -73 runs given back. Who knows? But that is how bad it was in left field for him.
For a guy, by the way, who was never supposed to be an outfielder in the major leagues, right?
Yeah.
Not his natural position when he was
I
drafted.
think Paul Skeens only allowed like 70 runs last season, and he's a pitcher. That's insane. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's a wild one. You really brought it there, Mike. Thank you.
Here's my question. Why did I look at a box score, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, and see Dylan Moore pinch hitter? What's the point of having a defensive specialist, a guy who won a gold glove as a utility guy, who never starts, never logs any innings defensively, and now you don't trust Brandon Marsh against lefties to the degree where you're going to pinch hit with Dylan Moore, who can't hit anybody? That doesn't seem like the best use of the only good fielder we have on the roster as a pinch hitter in a tight game. It's ridiculous. And I talked earlier, and apologies for invoking the name Don Brown. That's horrible of me. But, it's not just Phillies fans, but all fans have a tendency to overrate their prospects. I think that might be one thing we've done with Bryson Stott. We've convinced ourselves that Bryson Stott is like an exceptional fielder. I'm not so sure of that. I'm not sure that this team has.
He's had
really
a rough
any
start to the
exceptional
year, yeah,
fielders.
and that was what kept him in the positive WAR territory over the last couple of years is his defense. Some were saying that he might even challenge for a Gold Glove this year, and it's been a rough start everywhere for him. And you got to wonder if it's the bat just not hitting, he's taking it out to the field, and everything's compounding on him.
Rough start for Trey, too, who I thought took really positive strides forward last year defensively. And he has not been the same guy. Adolis Garcia has made a couple of nice throws, but has not really impressed me defensively in the outfield yet. Overall.
And then you look at Sosa, the play last night, like, you got to make that. And that really cost us the game because that led to the 3 runs that Sanchez let up.
It did. We still only scored one.
Bottom line, it's everybody that's struggling in the field. It's you can't say anybody's really having a great start to this season, and it's all 3 facets of the game right now. It's pitching, it's hitting, it's fielding.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Carl, you got that last facet. Don't forget that.
I'll get there. Just sticking on the fielding just for a second. We've seen enough baseball in our lives to know that a slump in hitting and a slump in fielding can go hand in hand. But when it is across the board the way it is with this team in both, there's something else. There's another X factor. There's I'll go back to lack of leadership, lack of managerial prowess. There's something rotten in this clubhouse, in my mind, especially given how much of a bill of goods we were sold by the organization all off season, that they were taking the right approach to building this roster to win in this window, to win this year. There's not buy-in with this roster, and some people are gonna that need to be led in the clubhouse just aren't being led. There's some who I don't know if they're feeling more pressure or they're tuned out. I think it's more likely the latter. These guys don't believe that they're winners. That's the sense I get. I know that's an intangible that you can't quantify, but I think we all see it on the field. We see it in body language. We hear it in between the lines in their interview responses. And then there's just the results on the field. Something is missing and rotten on this team, and it's got to be fixed quick, because this is more of a 4-alarm fire than people want to believe. I know it's only, I think after tonight's game will be an eighth of the way through the season. Again, bringing back a football comparison, that's like going 0-2, going on 0-3. Not a reason to panic entirely, but we've seen this before. This is not the first year we've seen this, and it seems to get a little bit worse each year. That's my 2 cents on it. So I will move on to the third category, which is pitching. This was the one that was supposed to be the lock for us. This roster is built to be a pitching team, front end and back end. Very strong rotation with tremendous upside because we're supposed to get Zach Wheeler back as soon as next weekend, it sounds. I think he's had his last rehab start today. That was supposed to be just something we could just hold the fort down with that fifth slot in the rotation until he gets back. We've got a true ace in Sanchez. We've got a guy we gave tens of millions of dollars extension to in Luzardo. We've got Aaron Nola, who seems to be, having an okay year from the World Baseball Classic. It looked like he had gotten over his injuries from last year. We had, moderately high hopes for him. And then Andrew Painter, who has actually delivered overall, especially for a rookie starter. And then the back end of the bullpen, we know that we're strong. We've got Duran, who is now on the at least 15-day IL with an oblique strain, but prior to that, when that was announced yesterday, performing the way you would pretty much expect him to. Brad Keller looks like he was worth every bit that we spent on him, getting him from the Cubs. Everyone in the bullpen, there's a few question marks, but guys that we weren't expecting to be elite, the Zach Pops of the world. Tim Mays has been surprising. But yeah, we've got on paper a very good pitching staff, but the numbers, at least on face value, are very alarming. We know that, for example, our ERA is the fifth worst in the majors. That's not to be expected from this team. If you told me we were in a slump pitching wise, an eighth of the way through the season, I'd say, okay, we're just outside the top 10. Fifth worst in the majors is appalling. We've got Taijuan Walker, who is we're just going to ride him out one last year for at least an eighth of a season until we get Wheeler back, and then have him as a spot starter or long man as needed if injuries pop up. He's somehow been worse than ever. I mean, the game Friday, our 9-0 loss to the Braves, it was like watching a guy who was either hiding an injury or it felt like a movie. It felt like that old grizzled veteran who's just cooked, just out there, just put him to bed. No shot at winning a game that he starts. Even if you can get him out early, give him a quick hook, you're in such a hole with that guy. I mean, it's the first 5 batters every game get on base. We've got, Nola has been pretty average, and that's fine. Luzardo has a ERA in the 7s, couple real bad starts in a row. He is adamant that it's not the pitch tipping issue that he had last year. Everyone on the team seems to be in agreement about that, so it's got to be something mechanical. I tend to give him a long leash. I think you guys would probably agree that he is definitely capable of coming around and probably will, but so far, when we just need someone to put out the fire, he's not helping either. A couple other stats that I see here. Sanchez leads the league in hits given up, I believe, so far this year. That's not good. He's putting in a lot of innings, but he's given up a lot of contact, more than he has last year, and that doesn't help when your fielders behind you aren't catching the ball. We've got our sorry, I just lost my train of thought there, but I'll flip it. In terms of the pitching, there is a stat that, Pat, I think you brought up in one of the episodes while I was away, FIP, which is fielding independent pitching. That's where I think if we dig a little bit beyond surface level, we don't have to panic about the pitching overall as much as we might. Their FIP is still second best in Major League Baseball. It's that 3.06 compared to their ERA, which is 4.92. That's almost 2 runs that you're losing to your defense. That's horrendous. That's horrendous. That's on a game per game basis. That's how much you're losing as a result of the fielders behind you. They're top 2 or 3 in Major League Baseball in terms of their WAR, Fangraphs WAR at around 3.5. I mean, they're still a strong staff, top to bottom. They're not giving up a lot of hard hit balls. The exit velocity is again in the top 3. Their ground ball rate is actually the best in the majors. That's always good to see, but you got to have guys catching the ball behind you. So I really think that this is I made this one the third of the 3 categories to dive into. We should be okay if we just play like a Major League Baseball team behind our pitchers. That should be the way, and there still is a lot to look forward to. I think Luzardo will settle down. I think Wheeler's going to come back very soon. We'll never have to see Taijuan Walker again, as long as we knock on wood and hope that our guys stay healthy. And Andrew Painter has put together a little run here that makes me believe that he's for real. Would you guys agree with that? Let's get into Painter real quick. So far from what you've seen.
So far,
Go ahead, Pat.
You think? Well, I was just going to say, I'm not watching the game now, but I'm tracking the GameCast. And as you were talking, Painter just left the game with nobody out in the 5th inning and a 2-1 lead. So I had to check his pitch count to see if there's any injuries. He's in the 80s. That seems like a reasonable spot to pull a rookie 3rd time through the lineup. So hopefully there's nothing there. Painter has impressed me. And again, maybe it's the sliding scale for rookies, but like the fact that he, had to miss the first couple innings last week with the migraine, and then he came back and threw 5 strong out of the bullpen. I like the stuff. I like the makeup, and I think he's been good. And to your larger point, I am generally not concerned about the pitching nearly as much as the other 2 areas. Like you said, the 2-run differential between ERA and FIP is huge, and it's telling. That's not to say that the defense is going to, become elite anytime soon, but I don't think it's going to continue at this level. The pitchers are doing, by and large, what they're supposed to be doing. Obviously, Taijuan Walker, you put him into a cannon and fire him into the sun, but everybody else, I'm relatively optimistic that they're going to be fine going forward.
Yeah. And I think that, so we've got some solid veterans on this staff. I think they're going to be pressing even more, knowing that they're not getting any run support whatsoever. I think that factors into their game plan. I think you're going to be less likely to be willing to pitch to contact, and that can set you up for a blow up inning here and there. So I don't want to take all the responsibility away from them, but I do think at its core, this pitching staff is a strength that should continue to be so for the rest of the season. Mike,
yeah, and I think there's a lot of things that are positive in the background of some of these stats from the start of the year. Like Painter has been, in my eyes, this is as good of a start to the season as we could have asked for. His walk rate is below 2. His K rate is above, I don't know what it was prior to or after this outing today, but it's came into the day at exactly 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. And his FIP is 1.52. I mean, that's a fantastic start to a career. But I think Taijuan's cooked, but the thing I'm most worried about is I don't know if Wheeler is really going to be the Wheeler that we need and have gotten accustomed to. He's sitting at 90 to 92 today in his minor league rehab start. And if he's coming back next week, that's a pretty significant sign for concern. Sanchez, while he has given up, you're right, 32 hits is the most in Major League Baseball. He also has the most strikeouts at 39. So he's pitched pretty well in totality. Luzardo is probably more of a situation that his underlying metrics, like his FIP is 2.86. That's pretty dang good. But you're right, like something seems a little off with him. I'm not 100% concerned just yet, but I think there's some tweaks that probably need to be made with him. Noel has been much better than last year, and that's really all you could ask for and expect. So I think there's some upside to the rotation, but all in all, this is the least of the worries in terms of all three of those main facets of the game.
Yeah, I think if you get, positive mean regression from Luzardo, you get Nola to just be just standard Nola, a 3 or 4 starter in this league in my mind. If Painter continues to just be a performer in some way, they stay healthy, and Wheeler comes back and is maybe not an ace, but another third starter, at that level this year. You put that staff together, you should still be an elite staff. You should still be a playoff team. You should be a team that probably wins 90 games. You got to stay healthy. You need the defenders and hitters to play somewhere like Major League Baseball players, and you should be okay. Like, that's not a bad way to build a team. So I'll leave it at that, having broken it down into these 3 categories, that yeah, we should still be a winning baseball team this year. It's just a matter of whether they want to. I don't know. There's an X factor here. I'm convinced of it. Where I want to go from there is from each of us, just give me 3 action items, action steps that you would take either as a manager or a general manager with this team right now. What would you do differently starting this week, whether it's a lineup change, a roster move, whatever else, to right this ship? Mike, I'll start with you.
So the first is actually something they did yesterday, and that was swap out Reyes for Kemp. I think it just needed to be done to change something up, and because Kemp has options, it's an easy trip down to AAA for him without any ramifications on the 40-man. Bringing up Reyes, giving some sense of life when we're facing a lefty, because every time we face a lefty starter, we are just brutal. The next is, I think they gotta release Taiwan when Wheeler comes back. I don't think there's much benefit keeping him in the bullpen as a long man, even if it is just a idea to have him as a backup for anybody that gets injured in the starting rotation. I don't think he has it left. I don't think there's anything left in that arm, and just because you're paying him $18 million this year doesn't mean you got to keep him around. And then I really don't think there's going to be any sort of coaching staff change, and it's definitely there isn't going to be one before June, in my opinion. I mean, if something happens in May, it's gotten really, really bad. I mean, they can't keep losing games 9-0 week after week and expect there not to be a significant change. But I don't think that's going to be the case. But, I mean, could that happen? Absolutely.
Surely. I won't add anything to your 3 points because I'm going to touch on some of them in some way when we get to mine. Pat, what are your 3 action items for right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's going to be any coaching change, but if you're asking me my 3 action items, my first call is to Kevin Long, and it's to say thank you for your service. It's no longer needed. Please leave. Please leave immediately. You have 30 minutes to exit the premises. I'm over it. I'm done. The only players he seems to have positively impacted in any way are Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, who are already outstanding hitters. They, with or without Kevin Long, would have been several-time All-Stars and, potential future 500 home run guys and Hall of Fame guys. If those are the only guys that he's able to really make an impact on, that's not what we need right now. We need somebody who can get a Bryson Stott or an Alec Boehm or somebody to take a step forward, and that has not happened. So Kevin Long has to go. Number two, absolutely agree about releasing Taiwan Walker. Um, he, he's not going to give you anything as the long man out of the bullpen. He's just going to take up a roster spot, and maybe getting rid of him sends some sort of message or changes up the mojo in the clubhouse or something like that. And number three, I don't think this will work, but I saw it in the movie once. You could sacrifice a live chicken for Adolis Garcia. I don't know. That's all I got.
If it happened in Hollywood, it's gonna happen here.
All right, I'll get to my three. Trying to figure out which one I want to start with. I think I'm going to start with cutting Taiwan. I was going to close with this one, and I'm going to tell you why. I'll give you a quick story. Friday night, I actually did I did a little stand-up showcase. Pat, thanks for getting me back into comedy a little bit lately. That was fun. Felt pretty good after that. Went out to a party afterwards with some other friends. Ended up closing the night around 1 a.m. at Bonner's, a great dive bar in the west part of Center City. Just the type of place you end up at 1 a.m. And who is sitting there with a group of people that seem like a mishmash, but Taiwan Walker. Taiwan Walker is at the bar. He had been lit up for, was it 6 runs in 3 innings on Friday? Just kicking back some cheap beers, not seeming to have a care in the world. And, I'm not the type of fan that will heckle a pro athlete in public. But I have always tried to defend that guy. I've always gotten the sense that, he's a good dude. He's working hard. Seems to be a good teammate, a positive force as much as he can be in the locker room. I don't ever want to see a guy who got lit up the way he did on Friday night, drinking at a bar that I would end up at 1 a.m., where people are there for cheap beers and doing weird drugs in the bathroom. And by the way, these are all great things about Bonners. At least one of those things is great to me. Yeah, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see you showing your face in public in this town, like you don't care enough that you're actually just going to go Taiwan on. Oh man, that wasn't even a pun I meant for. But it's just not a good look. It's a guy. If he knows he's cooked, he needs to just step away. You're going to get your 18 million no matter what. You should know better. You've been here long enough in this town to know that you don't do that. And I also love that he was the only one there. It has to mean that his teammates either knew enough not to go out in public on Friday night after getting rocked, or they're done with him too. So releasing him is my first action step, bar none. We were willing to eat $20 million with Nick Castellanos and act like he was the problem on the offensive side. We can at least pretend that Taiwan is the same and that it'll be addition by subtraction. Let him go. There's no more juice to squeeze out of this one. My second action step would be to immediately fire both Rob Thompson and Kevin Long. I've never been a huge advocate of Topper, dating back to at least the slow start in 2023. I appreciate that he was sort of a players manager, that we were coming out of the Joe Girardi era, and with the roster that was given to him in 2022 especially, it was not a Joe Girardi type team. Topper was the right move at the time. It was the spark that we needed. Dombo made the right move. I don't see anything by way of strategy in what Rob Thompson does with this baseball team. Never have. Really just bang my head against the wall consistently about the guy with every decision he ever makes. I think there was one bullpen decision he made this year that was the first time I said, oh, that's the right move, Topper. I'm glad you did that. I hadn't even considered that one. Kevin Long goes without saying. Pat, you nailed it. The only guys he's really made an impact on are guys who were stars anyway. A hitting coach is supposed to make a difference by elevating the rest of the cast, the supporting players, to be on base for guys like Schwarber and Harper. And I especially want to see this action step taken. First of all, just a little history. Girardi was fired on June 3rd of 2022. We were standing at a 22-29 record, 7 games below 500. We're about to be 5 games under 500 tonight. I see that we just, I think we're down 4-2 to the Braves in the 5th inning, and we know where that's going. We were really lucky. We were really lucky to go on the tear that we did under Rob Thompson when he was brought in as manager. And we just barely made the playoffs that year, if you remember. It took the Brewers choking, I believe, in the final week of the season. It took a lights-out performance by Aaron Nola in Houston to seal the deal. Skin of our ass, even though we went on an absolute tear when we made that coaching change. I don't see that sort of tear happening this year. Sooner the better. This needs to be done way earlier than June. And I know it's probably not going to, but I just need to say my piece on that one. And also because I know who's waiting in the wings. Give me Donnie baseball. The Don Mattingly era for the Phillies needs to start right now. He's I believe, all the things that we're looking for in a manager right now. A guy who will get guys to buy in, who's been a ball player, a great ball player before. I like the way he coached those Marlins teams. He got some fight out of those guys. They weren't, loaded with $1 million stars, but I saw something in the way they played the game. And with a regime change, with a shakeup like this, guys, you would hope are going to respond in some way. So he's there, and I feel like he was brought in as a hedge against what's going on here. I know he's got, his son is in the organization, whatever. But I think there's another layer to it. I think they wanted to have him around just in case we need him to be our manager. And I think he would happily accept that, and I would be excited for that change, and I think the fan base would be too. And that brings me to my third action step regarding the fan base. I always bring in like what I see as a season ticket holder and the type of resell situation that's going on. A good example is tonight. This is Sunday Night Baseball with our hot new rookie on the mound against a division rival in relatively good weather in April. It cooled off a little bit, but overall the weekend was good. We have tickets in the lower level in the outfield that sold for $18 tonight. I mean, that's bad. I mean, my friends and I that have the package together, we're slated to lose a couple grand this year. In a year where we're supposed to be winners. Like, we know we're going to lose money when the team's not good. That's just the nature of being a season ticket holder. But we're seeing this already with this roster. Ownership needs to acknowledge that. They need to get buy-in from the fans. They need to electrify that ballpark with the moves I just mentioned. And they also need to get this sort of just malaise that the fan base had, probably even going into this season, feeling like they're running it back, that they don't care, that they're doing shit like, rename Harry the K's and take away the analog clock. All these little things that just feel like just little slaps in the face to the fan base. I think they need to undo a couple of those things, just as a statement. I know they've got contracts with Ghost Energy drinks or whatever, but throw the name Harry the K's back on the awning. Bring the analog clock back. Do a couple little things that will say, hey, mea culpa. We were a little tone deaf going into this season, but we acknowledge that this is a rough shape that we're in, that we're setting you guys up for a really miserable summer if we don't take action steps. So I'd like to see something on ownership's part like that, acknowledging just that this is a bad start and they made some bad moves and some miscalculations. And we need you back because this is a team that can and should win. That's what I would do, for better or worse. And I hope that something happens here of what we just mentioned this week.
I mean, you'd love to see something happen as quickly as possible, especially if they get swept by the Braves tonight. I mean, you don't want to go down losing 3 in a row at home to your division rival, especially one that would be, I think, 6.5 games behind after tonight if they end up losing. That's a tough hole to come out of. You kind of wish you weren't playing the Braves this weekend and next weekend because you're playing your worst baseball when they're playing their best.
ownership is screwed, man. If the team doesn't win, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you. Like, I get what you're saying and I understand, and I would like them to do that regardless, the things you said, but I went to, I told you guys, or I told Mike, I went to an Angels game a couple weeks ago. I went to see him play when the Braves were in town. I had never seen Chris Sale live. So I went down there. I got a ticket for $7. Angel Stadium still has $4.50 beers at several stands throughout. They call them mini cans. They're 12 ounces. That used to be a normal can. 12-ounce beers for $4.50. They added a whole arcade for kids to play, like with Pac-Man machines and shit. They've tried to like renovate the stadium. They've tried to do different things. Artie Moreno gave an interview a few weeks ago where he said, we actually polled the fans and found that winning isn't that important to them. It's pretty far down the list of things that matter most to them. Well, then let me ask you a question. If the fans don't care about winning and you have fun for the whole family all over the stadium and, $4.50 beers and this and that, why were the tickets $7?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're full of shit. Because winning is literally the only thing that matters. If you're winning, the fans will forgive everything else. And what you just suggested with ownership reminds me of, I feel like this is their go-to move every time the fans start getting restless. They're like, we're going to bust out the powder blue jerseys. That'll shut them up. And all of a sudden they start wearing the powder blue jerseys and fans are like, oh my God, the powder blue jerseys. And it's like hypnosis. We forget for a few days. But I think they're beyond fixing it with anything but winning at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they fire Topper and Long, I would. It would be in addition to that. I know that step alone doesn't do anything, but yeah, it just feels like the whole organization is just completely out of touch with how to win on the baseball field and how to win over fans. That's a bad combo. That's disappointing.
Well, let me just ask you this, just to put a button on this one. If you could only have one, fire Topper or $4.50 beers, which way are you going?
Fire Topper.
Oof. You're committed.
I am. I mean, I'm so conditioned to spend what I spend on beers, for all these years. What the hell? Give me something excited on the field. All right, guys. I know we're running about an hour. I'll put one final button on this because we must end on a positive note for each of these podcasts if I have anything to do with it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mets have lost their last 10 and are in last place. So we're doing better. All right, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe the Specific Jawns podcast. We'll be back again next week for better or worse, hopefully with some changes to talk about. But until then, have a good rest of your week and go Phils.
Go Phils.